Today I'm going to take you on a walking tour of central London, stopping by some of my favourite places to shop for stationery. This is a great tour for anyone visiting or even living in London if you want to take in some sights as well as doing a bit of shopping. It's a beautiful sunny day, so let's go. To start, we travel to Charing Cross Underground Station, and here you can see some artwork before you head up to ground level. Here on the Northern Line platform you can see a mural by David Gentleman which was installed in 1979. It depicts the construction of the Eleanor Cross that gives the station its name. The mural was made in woodblock and then enlarged for the station walls. If you choose to arrive on the Bakerloo line, you will see artworks from the collections of the National Gallery and the National Portrait Gallery lining the walls of the platform. Climbing up to street level, we arrive in Trafalgar Square and see the iconic Nelson's Column. The site of Trafalgar Square used to be a royal stable until it was demolished in the 1830s for John Nash's Charing Cross Improvement Plan. Unfortunately, he died before it could be developed, so it was Sir Charles Barry who planned the site, levelling and paving the area. On the northern side we see the very impressive National Gallery, designed in a classical style by William Wilkins and built from 1832 to 38. We're going to walk towards the west side of the gallery, and there's a little pathway between the newer extension and the original building. As we walk up here, I'll just quickly introduce myself. Hi, I'm Jen. I'm an art historian, a walking tour guide, a stationery lover, and I've lived in London for over a decade, so I'm really happy to share this walk with you. If you're interested in following the route and more information about the walk, I will have a link to a map up for free on my Ko-fi page, so everyone can access it. But if you would like to support me on Ko-fi, that is much appreciated. So you'll find the link to that post down below. Here we're sort of skirting around behind the National Gallery and just below Leicester Square as we head to our first shop. So as we come up to Panton Street, you can see the Japan Centre, which is our first stop. And they have a noodle bar on the ground floor, but we're going to go down into the basement to look at all of the lovely goodies they have. As you go down the stairs, if you go directly to the right, they have a small selection of Japanese stationery. Now, depending on what they're importing, this range will change, but I always love to pop in and see what they have. They usually have a lot of origami packs, washi tapes, and other little bits and pieces of Japanese stationery. And they had a range of train-related items, so these little origami Shinkansen sets. They have a great range of Japanese food and snacks, so I grabbed a couple of things as a reward for the end of the walk. Right next to the tills, they also have a range of Japanese books, magazines, and homewares, so it's worth checking those out. And let's make our way back up to street level. I skirted along the bottom of Leicester Square towards Charing Cross Road. I really love going for long walks through the city on days like this because the London architecture just sings in the sunshine. And here we're going to avoid the crowds at Leicester Square Station, and I'm going to take you down one of my favourite streets in London. So as we head up Charing Cross Road, we're going to turn right into Cecil Court. This street initially caught my eye for the glazed brick exteriors and the old bookshops. This is a Victorian street rebuilt in 1894 to replace buildings regarded as slums in the area. It became an area known for publishing and the early film industry and was full of bookshops at the beginning of the 20th century. Now it hosts a lot of shops with antique books, posters, maps, and it is a great place for window shopping. So we're going to turn left up St Martin's Lane and head towards Covent Garden and our next stop. Crossing over into Longacre, we're going to pause for a moment at number 12 to 14. As you can see on the building, it says Stanford, and we are heading to Stanford's map shop. The shop was here in this location for 118 years, until it moved just around the corner in 2019. As we continue to walk up Long Acre, there will be a sign on the left-hand side where we're going to turn. And it's this ghost sign of the Armstrong Siddeley Connaught Coachworks, which was a company who sold carriages and then motor cars in the 1920s on this site. So here we will turn left into Mercer Street. So Stanfords is a little bit hidden away down here, but once you see the map on the front of the shop, you know you're in the right place. On the ground floor to the left-hand side is where we will find the stationery that we're looking for, but there are also lots of travel books up here to look at. They have a lovely range of notebooks and lots of things that you could give as gifts or take home as souvenirs. Over on this side is a London-focused section. So you've got guidebooks on London's, puzzles, maps, you have the classic London A to Z, and a few bits of London Underground related merchandise. My main recommendation for this store is to go downstairs because there is a wonderful array of maps and travel books down here. And if you turn around when you get to the bottom of the stairs, you are greeted by a wonderful sight of these illuminated globes. Whether you're just visiting London or you're planning a trip somewhere, there's all manner of maps and books down here to help you make your plans. And it's just a really lovely place to spend some time. You can really travel the world just by visiting this store. Next, we're going to head back to Mercer Street and keep going along it because very close by is our next stop, which you can see the colours peeking out here. It's the London Graphic Centre. This shop is housed in a former 19th century warehouse, and it is for artists and stationery enthusiasts alike. As soon as you walk in, you are greeted with lots of lovely stationery. There's empty masking tapes in every colour, we've got the high tide cases, and a big range of Midori notebooks and stationery accessories. If you're looking for Japanese stationery, they have a really good range of brands here. There's lots of very cute stickers. As you walk towards the staircase, they have in these two glass cases the Traveller's Notebook range. So all of the inserts, and then they do sell the leather covers, and they stock limited editions when they're released. So if you are looking for them in London, this is a place to go. I always check these tables underneath the staircase because they will lay out more stationery and sort of accessories. And over there is where all of the pens and pencils begin for the artists. They do have some art supplies on this floor, like the Copic markers and the paper pads, but you'll want to go upstairs for more art supplies. Leaving the London Graphic Centre, we're going to walk along Shelton Street towards our next shop, which is just around the corner. I find on the busiest days in Covent Garden, this is one of the quieter streets, so it's always lovely to walk along here. As we get to the end of Shelton Street, we're going to turn up Tower Street to find Choosing Keeping. Now, this is a store that I first visited in their previous location on Columbia Road, but they moved to this bigger location and it is a beautiful store to visit. I would say their vibe leans more vintage style, so there are a lot of antique looking papers. They make their own notebooks with these beautiful marbled edges. They do also stock a range of Japanese stationery because everyone loves Japanese stationery. But it really is a store that you want to pore over every single item and look at everything really closely. Now, I don't use fountain pens, but they do have a nice range of fountain pens and inks if you are that way inclined. They're well known for these bound notebooks with vintage papers on the covers and the marbled edges. They're lovely to buy for yourself or give as a gift, but they are quite expensive compared to other notebooks that I use. And here's a look at some of the ink that they have. They do letter sets as well and lots of lovely cards. They do also stock these Japanese watercolour palettes, which make me want to become an artist. If you're a stationery lover visiting London, I think this is a must-visit store. So hopefully your wallet has survived, because we've got one more stationery store to go and visit. We're going to head back down Tower Street and then turn up Monmouth Street. Monmouth Street is one of the 7 dials, which are 7 streets radiating out from a central point. These streets were laid out in the 1690s by a man called Thomas Neal, and it was quite a peculiar configuration at the time. As you walk towards the central point, you will see a pillar, and at the top of this pillar there are 6 sundials, and it is said that the pillar itself creates the 7th sundial. Unfortunately, the original pillar was taken down in 1773, and there are multiple theories as to why, one being that a mob believed there to be money in the base. The current replica pillar was commissioned by the Seven Dials Trust in 1988. And as we cross over, we are still going up Monmouth Street, so sort of heading right across on the diagonal. So heading up along Shaftesbury Avenue, we're going towards the Bloomsbury area. Walking up Coptic Street, we can see at the end that is the edge of the British Museum on Great Russell Street, but we're going to turn here along Little Russell Street towards our final shop. And it was here that I looked up and saw these very interesting buildings where it says Dairy Supply Company Limited. And that's one thing that I recommend if you're in London, is just to keep looking up at all of the buildings, because there's always something interesting hidden above our heads. And walking down Little Russell Street, it's so quiet, whereas just to the north on Great Russell Street, there are hundreds of people lining up to go to the British Museum. We're going to walk all the way down here, and then we'll find our next shop, which is Present and Correct. So here on Bury Place, we have Present and Correct. They used to have a super tiny shop in Islington, which I really loved, but I much prefer this bigger location because you have more space to look at their wonderful range of stationery. And they have a nice focus on vintage stationery and ephemera, and you'll find a really wide range of beautiful stationery here. And make sure that you look at these little shelves in the corner, because there's lovely ephemera and stickers. If you need a pen or an eraser or a sharpener, you'll be able to find it here. And they're very well known on their Instagram for their lovely organised layouts of stationery. And everything is just such high quality and really beautiful, and you just want to buy everything. You'll probably find a lot of things here that you never thought existed, and then suddenly you actually really need them. So it's a dangerous place. So after shopping all of this lovely stationery, it's time for a little break. So we're going to head towards Great Russell Street, but again, avoiding the busyness of the British Museum, turning right towards Bloomsbury Square. Bloomsbury Square was initially known as Southampton Square and was developed in the 17th century as one of the earliest squares in London. It initially housed the gentry and the aristocracy before it became unfashionable, so the middle classes moved in. The gardens here opened to the public in 2003, and it's a great place to stop and have lunch or read a book. I will say, if you're looking at a map of London and you see a green square, you have to be careful because some of them aren't open to the public, like this one is. They're often key holder gardens, so it's the owners of the houses around the square who have a key to get into the private garden. So if you're looking for a place to sit down, you have to be careful because you might turn up to a locked gate. So here I'm going to stop and enjoy the snacks that I bought at our first stop at the Japan Centre. And I want to say thank you for joining me on this walk. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you would like to go on this walk yourself, you can use the link in the description below to my Ko-fi page, where the map for this walk will be available freely for everyone. But if you do choose to support me on Ko-fi, that is very much appreciated. And if you would like to see more of this kind of content, please do subscribe to the channel. And please let me know in the comments which stationery shop on this tour you would most like to visit, or maybe you've already visited them and you have a favourite, so just let me know. So thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you next time.